Cambridge. So this week we will be running a variety of online sessions taking place every evening until Thursday, the 30th of November, to give you the opportunity to find out more about Master Study at ICE. Course information sessions like this one, covering a range of courses in our Master's portfolio, will be taking place at 6:30 to 7:15 every evening, followed by a series of panel sessions from 7:30 to 8:15 with our students, academics, and representatives from matriculated colleges. In addition to our live sessions, we also have a number of video resources on our website, giving you further information on funding options, the application process, college matriculation, and interview preparation. And if you missed any of our sessions or you're not available to attend, then you can always watch the recordings, which will be available on our website 24 hours after each event. Links to events and resources are shared in the chat and will also be sent via email after this session. So a little bit about ICE. We were established 150 years ago in 1873, making us the first university-led continuing education provider in the world. Today, we offer a wide range of courses to adult learners, including short online and residential weekend courses, international summer programs, and award-bearing part-time undergraduate and postgraduate qualifications, covering a number of subject areas, everything from archaeology to writing for performance. We also act as the admitting body for all Master of Studies courses within the University of Cambridge, with our master's students becoming members of a Cambridge college when they start their course. In essence, ICE is a place where professional networks are formed, friendships are made, and the transformative power of learning is recognized. If you apply to the course and you are successful, once you've accepted an offer, you will become a member of a University of Cambridge college. This will grant you the same level of support as a full-time university student at Cambridge. As well as having access to standard college resources, you'll be allocated a college tutor, and this person will be responsible for your welfare and pastoral support. Your college will also confirm arrangements with you, such as your university card, matriculation, and your graduation events. We work with a number of different colleges across our MST courses, and for the MST in AI specifically, we work very closely with Hughes Hall, Lucy Cavendish, and St Edmunds College. Now, you can state a preference for one of these colleges when you apply. You don't have to, but please know that it isn't normally possible to become a member of another college unless you already have a pre-existing affiliation with them. So we're delighted to have a number of different panelists at our session today. Dr. Jonnie Penn is the course co-lead for this MST, and you'll be hearing from him next. We also have one of our current students, Tanya Goodin. She's going to be talking about her experience of being a student on the course. Myself and Nicola from the admin team are with you, Kate from the enrollments team, and Alice from our marketing team. In a moment, we'll take you through what you can expect from the MST in AI, talk about the entry requirements, teaching style, the module content, and how the assessment works. You'll also hear from Tanya, who's one of our students, and our enrollment team will take you through what kind of support you can expect to be provided with during your application. And we've reserved time at the end of today's session to answer your questions. So please feel free to type your questions for any members of the team using the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen at any point during the presentation, and we'll do our best to answer your questions at the end. So I'll now hand over to the co-course lead, Dr. Jonnie Penn.
Thanks, Jonathan, and a pleasure to be with you all virtually today, tonight, depending on where you are calling from in the world. So I'm going to give you a brief overview in about 15 minutes of what this course is, what we try to do, who our students are, what we look for in students, and things to that effect. To begin, it's important to just say that the two institutions that host this degree are the Leverhulme Center for the Future of Intelligence, LCFI, which is a global research center at the forefront of AI ethics and impact research. And it is partnered with, for this degree, the Institute of Continuing Education, which Jonathan has very kindly just introduced. The 2024-2026 cohort, which is our next intake for this degree, will be our fourth. CFI was founded in 2016, and it's a highly interdisciplinary research center. It is the driver of the academic portion or the kind of content of the course. And it has speciality in this area. It's funded by the Leverhulme Trust and has partners with the University of Oxford, Imperial College, UC Berkeley, and other close links in industry and in policy. And so CFI kind of brings together these different parties, and the degree is built kind of on top of that. So you're getting a part of CFI's expertise. And the Vice Chancellor of the university was very kind to say, even just last week, that she brags to her kind of peers about the work that happens within CFI and its sister centers. So we are trying to, break ground in this center every day, and you would be a part of that as a student. Let's go into some of the key dates, which you can see on the screen here and can take a screenshot of if relevant. I'm sure it would be relevant if you're here. So the degree is 22 months and part-time, beginning in September, running till June. There are 5 modules, the last of which is a dissertation, and I'll go into that in a moment. We have 4 residential teaching blocks in which students come to the university for a week. We have quite an intensive week together with content that entire time and social activities as well. And then students get to kind of take up additional material asynchronously on their own schedule remotely after that, and then come back in person the next term. The qualification out of this is 180 credits, equal to a Master of Studies. You do get a master's from the University of Cambridge. The application deadline is the 26th of March. The way it tends to go is that we hold interviews online in April and May, make conditional offers in about June, July, and each year we're aiming for a cohort of about 45 to 50 students. If we could go to the next slide, please, Jonathan. Thank you. So the degree as a whole, obviously the world of AI is changing rapidly. That almost need not be said. The way we've designed the course is to offer what we describe as kind of a broad spectrum look at current events, historical events, and as empirically as is possible, kind of speculate about what the future may have in store. And we aim to equip students with the kind of rigorous knowledge and skills they need to consider AI ethics issues in different areas. Now, we find ourselves, with students, and I'll talk about this in a moment, from many different backgrounds, lawyers, kind of students that are fresh out of their undergrad but very keen, industry professionals who haven't been in academia for 2 decades or more. We really run the gamut, and it's one of the strengths of the course, as I'll come to talk about, is that we have this kind of diverse selection of students. During the degree, if accepted, you'll work kind of online and in person with your fellow cohort members and move between fields, and I'll introduce this in a moment as well, but you'll be interacting with researchers looking at things like academic bias, applied ethics, data privacy, AI governance, and machine learning as well, even though it's not a technical degree. If we could go to the next slide. So as is clear from the previous slide, we're looking to advance your expertise in developing ethical approaches to AI and kind of carve out and in some sense, create, because not all of these precedents exist yet, best practices for responsible AI leadership. It's a part-time degree in part because many of our students are in industry or have other lives, in a sense, professional lives. This degree is not their full-time obligation, and that's a benefit to all involved because it's this kind of melting pot of real-world experience with a kind of bit of protected time for academic study. We have these 4 intensive week-long residentials in which students really get to know each other in a nice way. As I'm sure Tanya will mention, there's a feeling of camaraderie that builds over the 2 years. You get out of this degree a kind of network and often a friend base as well. And it's a nice kind of vibrant international network that you're exposed to. We try to bring in speakers from across the globe, and world leading speakers in the area of AI ethics and society. And you leave this degree not only with that kind of information and that network, but also the qualification from one of the best universities in the world. Okay, if we can go to the next slide. We get asked often, how do you keep this relevant? With things moving so fast, how do you go about that? And as I'll come to in the next slide as well, but kind of gesture to here, the design is sort of twofold. The first is, ethical frameworks are very old. Humans have tended to look at the kind of ethics of different technologies with principles that date back to antiquity, and have been repurposed for many different challenges that humans have confronted with new technologies ever since. So portions of the degree are adapting pre-existing knowledge to our current circumstances. Equally, the portion on the history of AI is, it will expose you to where these technologies came from, what has already been accomplished or critiqued in the past, how new is our present moment. Obviously, the past that exists is unchanging, but if this comprises maybe 50% of what you get, the other 50% is exposure to, present day kind of ongoing debates, contests over exactly how we should solve some of these problems. And our aim is to give you kind of a tasting menu across the 2 years of all these different approaches that you can then use, finding your comfort in maybe history or philosophy or media studies, or any of those areas, plus your own area of specialization if you're a lawyer or otherwise, to feel like you have confidence going back into industry to help, as I said, kind of answer some of these big open questions. Some of the kind of ever emerging field of AI ethics is already beginning to sediment a little bit. We know that issues of privacy, surveillance, justice, fairness, you've all, I imagine, kind of come across or heard about these recurring terms. They are terms that come up in the degree and you read literature about, and that is, of course, part of our aim. And we want you to be able to leave the degree confident to answer questions like, how can I tell if an AI system is trustworthy? How can I understand its negative impacts? How do I kind of manage issues about data privacy, security, et cetera? And what could responsible innovation entail for my organization? It's important to say this is not a panacea. We do not have, a secret folder with all of the answers that everyone in the rest of the world is after, but we will teach you to think with the people that are coming up with those answers and to ideally participate in that conversation, because this isn't chemistry 101. We don't have kind of everything on a platter. Even though I've described it as a tasting menu, we want you to feel kind of like a participant in this. The way we've described it to past cohorts is you are coming into the laboratory in which we would need to collectively kind of experiment to find these solutions. We'll give you a whole bunch and we want you to kind of work with that and bring your own experience in as well. Okay, if we could go to the next slide. This gives you the kind of flow chart of the 2 years. The first module is on the nature and history of AI. That's the module I teach. The next is on the ethics and societal challenges of AI, which is led by Dr. Henry Shevlin. It's the first module is history. The second is philosophy, broadly speaking, but we kind of visit other areas as well. And Dr. Maya Ganesh teaches the third term, which is on AI governance. And then in your second year, we will, in a fourth module, look at kind of theories and methods. And this is to tee you up to do well on your dissertation, which is where the fifth module takes you. And the important thing to say about the dissertation and about the degree as a whole is because of the kind of cross-section of society that we end up inevitably kind of finding is attracted to this course. As I've said, we have people in, the biggest corporations, OpenAI, DeepMind, all of that who come. Equally, we have, municipal leaders, and we have, young people that have no career necessarily behind them, but they're very hungry to kind of participate and excited to participate in this conversation. Because we have people from all over that kind of spread, we try to set up the degree, or we have set up the degree, to try and accommodate for different preferences. And so what we are steering you towards with the dissertation, with the top material in the first year, but leading to the dissertation in the second year, is the opportunity to specialize a little bit. So if you come in interested in questions to do with privacy and data trusts, or if you're interested in the ecological ramifications of AI, you can, in your dissertation, really take that forward. And our hope is that students, it's not an obligation, but are doing work that could feasibly be published. And lo and behold, we've just had the first cohort come through, and many are kind of prepping to publish their dissertations. So that's a nice thing. To kind of run through these final slides, if we could go to the next piece. The assessment is relatively straightforward and available on the website. We have one introductory module 1 assignment of 2,000 words that helps you kind of get the dust off if you haven't been in academia for a while. We recognize that's a reality for many of our students, so it helps kind of get back in the mix. Modules 2 to 4 each have equally weighted 4,500 word assignments, and then we end with the dissertation. And the dissertation, you would have a supervisor for that would work with you and give feedback on the project as you go. Next, you see in terms of time commitment, week to week, we ask students to put in roughly 8 hours a week. Some do more, some do less, depending on their schedules. And also, it is critical that students come for the week-long residentials that I've alluded to. Students tend to enjoy this, so it's a positive, not a negative, to be in the city and to see it in different seasons, and to be able to kind of imbibe in the university's culture and its offerings. So excited to be able to make that a very important part of the degree. And the rest of this content is available online. I'm recognizing we're short on time, so I'm going to push to the next slide. And to some of the kind of spread of subjects that you will see, as I've already alluded to, the interdisciplinary nature of the degree is premised on the interdisciplinary nature of LCFI, Center for the Future of Intelligence. And so you have access to Henry, Maya, and I as kind of core contributors to the top material, but you also have advisors from the center, and you could feasibly have a supervisor from the center or from elsewhere in the university, and therefore have access to expertise in the particular area that you are hoping to focus in as you move into that second year. If you could go to the next slide. One of the strengths, and I mentioned this earlier, but I'll just underline it here, is the student base. It's what keeps me very excited each year to do this again and again with these amazing students who bring to it curiosity, conviction, dedication, critical eye, and often a need to solve problems, if it's in their day-to-day job or in a job that they're aspiring to have. We want to kind of embrace the different sets of interests that bring you to the course. But I can say definitively that those who enter tend to come from a wide range of professions, including tech, including kind of third sector, civil society / governance, but also from academia as well. We've had tenured professors in some of our courses, and the strength is that the students have this prolonged conversation. I've heard again and again that the WhatsApp group that the students have is by far the busiest WhatsApp group any of them have ever been in. So if you love AI, you will be surrounded by people who also love AI, or are scared by it, or are excited about it, or all of the above. And that's really a value of what we can offer. And the last slide I'll share here is just about the application process, what that involves. It does require, pulling some materials together. That is just a fact of life in applying for a university course at the master's level. But it needn't be something that feels too intimidating. even if you've been out of academia for a while. We ask for a copy of official degree transcripts. That's university policy. If you have an undergraduate degree certificate, that would be something to include. And this is all available online, and you can message ICE about it if you have particular questions. But other requirements are a language certificate if English is not your first language, a personal statement. Students ask a lot of questions, or potential students ask a lot of questions about this. And so maybe I'll just pause for 1 second to speak to it. And that is to say that we try and judge the applications we get, which have grown each year. And so it is a competitive program, but we try and judge it on who you will become. So we recognize that, there's a catch-22 of maybe, this degree will help give you the experience that you need to make the difference in the world or study the subjects that you want to. And we do recognize that there's an aspirational quality to this degree. That's okay. Some of you equally will come in with an extraordinary wealth of experience, and this is maybe just an area to kind of reflect on that experience and do so with recent literature. Both are all right, but in your personal statement, it's helpful for us to see what you would do with this degree and why you're here to do it, because we want to understand your unique journey here and maybe afterwards as well. Lastly, a recent CV and 2 references, preferably academic references. Sometimes we have candidates who send in references from work. Academic references are always better. And so I would aspire to include that. And a sample of work doesn't need to be customized to this degree. We want to just see how you write, because it's sometimes reflective of how you think. We have had students generate new work to satisfy this requirement, but that's not necessary at all, and it doesn't necessarily distinguish you. We just want to see something that kind of captures your writing ability. And in terms of what we're looking at, and I'm sorry I've gone a few minutes over here, Jonathan, but just to say, really, we are open to all sorts of different backgrounds, and that's, as I've now kind of belabored, a strength of the course. But we would like to see kind of evidence of your interest in, I would say, AI ethics and society. It doesn't need to just be as narrow as the AI ethics category, which is interpreted as kind of one set of things. AI and society avails many other things. We've had students who are interested in surveillance in a certain area of the world, and journalism. That's related enough to AI for us that we hear you and you say, this is what I want to come to work on. And so we encourage you to make that clear in your application material, along with evidence of kind of relevant experiences and achievements, and evidence that when you get here, it will serve you. You'll be ready for it, because we don't want to set you up for failure in joining a degree that maybe you need more time or something else to kind of really succeed in. But as I said, there's an aspirational element. We are with you to get you to the place you want to go, and so it just helps us to see where you are and where it is that you do want to go. With that said, I will conclude my comments and pass now to one of our STAR students in cohort 2, who's Tanya Gooden. Tanya, are you with us?
Thank you. Yeah, I can vouch for how lively the WhatsApp group is, because it's constantly buzzing. Yeah, so I think the two ways I would describe the course are demanding, definitely academically demanding, but incredibly rewarding. So everything I came to the course to achieve, I have achieved and more. And I think that comes down to 2 things. One is the quality of the teaching. So it's world-class teaching at Cambridge. And you really feel that throughout the course. And the quality of people that are brought in, external tutors and speakers at various stages. We've had access to people we just simply wouldn't have had access to before. And the second thing that really stands out for me, which Jonnie's mentioned, is just the diversity of the cohort. We are an incredibly diverse group. I did my undergraduate degree several decades ago. We've got people who've literally just graduated. We've got people who are very geographically diverse, from all sorts of incredibly diverse backgrounds. And that's what really makes the course so enjoyable. Taking you through the kind of 3 elements. The residentials for me have been, just the best part of the course, because that's when everybody gets together. And they are really intense. It's teaching all day and then very lively social life in the evening. So I normally need to sleep for a week when I come back from them. But yeah, really, really enjoyable. I'd say they're the highlight for me. In terms of then the way the term works, I think I have probably taken 8 hours a week. And the thing that I underestimated really was the reading. So the weekly lectures, you can watch live or are pre-recorded, but then you have set reading and then the discussion group. And I think you probably get out what you put in. So if you're not taking part in the online discussion groups, I think you're really not appreciating everything the course has to offer. But in order to take part in those, obviously you have to do the pre-reading. And the volume of that was the bit of the course that I had underestimated, but it probably is about 8 hours in the week. So then the third aspect really is the one-to-one tutorials and supervision. I've been really lucky. I've had a fantastic personal tutor who's just been brilliant and really helped guide me. Writing my first academic essay for a long time, incredibly helpful with that, and has been really useful at every stage. So I think what the course has given me really is I came into it wanting to really develop my critical thinking around the subject, and also wanting to develop my own interests. And we've just had the AI summit in the UK, and I arranged and hosted an event around that in an area that I was particularly interested in, the AI's impact on climate change. I couldn't have imagined doing that 2 years ago when I was applying for the course. And I think the final thing really that the course has delivered is just the network of people, which, I'm sure still going to be in touch with each other, and kind of working our way through these issues for a good few years to come.
Now, I'm not sure if this is the Q&A portion. Jonathan, should I be speaking to this?
No, I was just going to invite Kate to address this slide.
Thank you, Jonathan. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name's Kate, and I'm part of the student enrolment team here at the Institute. I hope you found this evening's event informative so far. We know that for many adult learners, education is a financial investment. So I'm going to talk you through some of the support available to eligible students applying for this MST in AI Ethics and Society. And then I'll give you a whistle-stop tour on the support that myself and my colleagues in the enrolment team can provide you with. So as part of submitting your application for this MST, there is a £50 application fee, and the university is committed to widening access and participation to higher education. And as such, some applicants may be exempt from paying this application fee via one of 2 schemes. If you have any questions about your eligibility, please let us know. But in the meantime, we'll post a link in the chat for information around exemptions to this application fee. There are a variety of external funding mechanisms in place, from part-time student loans to military funding to DSA, which is the Disabled Students Allowance. So for students in the UK, the Disabled Students Allowance enables students to apply for a loan if you have a disability, a mental health condition, or a specific learning difference which affects your ability to study. We're also aware that the Student Loan Company in the UK and Sallie Mae Smart Loans in the US can typically support funding for part-time master's programs. So if you're applying for student loan funding outside of those areas, please connect with your student loan provider to ensure that the course can be supported. And lastly, to enroll onto the course, if you receive an offer, you will need to make a payment in order to enroll. We can support you with putting payment plans in place, as well as adding funds from your employer if they are able to sponsor you. Myself and my colleagues in the enrolment team are really excited to connect with you all and can support you on your application journey at every stage of the process. Our team has a wealth of knowledge about the Institute and the courses on offer. We'd be more than happy to guide and support you on any queries you may have when it comes to selecting a course, discussing whether a course is suitable for you, or if you want to discuss the course requirements in more detail. We know the application process can sometimes seem daunting, but we promise you it isn't, and we're on hand to support you through every stage if needed. We can provide information on the different stages of your application, what needs to be included, and what the next steps are to make the process as simple as possible for you. Our team would love to hear from you on any questions you may have, and you can reach us using the Contact Us form on our website, or you can scan the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of this slide, and that will take you straight through to the form. Or just drop us an email using the enquiries email at the bottom of the slide. We hope to hear from you soon, and I look forward to answering any questions you may have during the Q&A. Thank you.
So thank you, Kate. We'll move on to the Q&A now. I can see we've got a large number of questions coming in, which is fantastic. Please do keep typing in your questions. Couple of questions that I'd just like to put to you, Kate, that have come in. First of all, a question around the English language test. So the question is, do I need to take an English language test?
Yeah, thank you. So applicants for whom English is not their first language will need to submit evidence at the application stage, and evidence that they meet the university's English language requirement. There's an English language calculator that you can use for general guidance and see if you may need to provide a test, and we can share that link in the chat. After receiving an application, the admissions team will assess the information provided, and they'll let you know if a test or assessment is required. And then if a test is required, we can accept the IELTS academic, the CPE, which is the Cambridge Certificate of Proficiency in English, the TOEFL, or the Cambridge CAE, which is the Certificate in Advanced English, plus a Language Centre assessment. So the link in the chat will provide some really useful information on these different tests.
Fantastic, thank you. The next question is around disability and welfare support. So as a master's student, question is, who would I reach out to if I needed disability or welfare support?
Yeah, really, really important question, and thank you. So while our master's students at ICE are matriculated, which means that your college tutor and your college will be your first point of contact for support around welfare, we fully understand that all of our students are individual, and our student welfare team is happy to hear from MST students to listen and signpost and to ensure that your experience as a student with ICE is exemplary. In addition to welfare-based support, as an MST student, you'll have access to a variety of disability supports through accessibility and disability services, which offers confidential advice and support. They receive disability disclosures and provide support with adjustments. And they can also support with finding funding available to students with disabilities. And we'll put the link in the chat.
Super. And one final question, if I may, before we move on to the broader Q&A. Can I complete this course fully online is a question that's just come in.
Yeah, great. So the hybrid nature of the course is a university requirement, and therefore students will need to attend the in-person residential sessions during the course. So apart from it being a requirement, participating in a master's course means that you're a member of a University of Cambridge College and part of the broader university community, and an alumni for life. Previous students have shared that the in-person sessions were an integral part of their experience, which allowed them to feel connected to the Cambridge community. And it provided opportunities for in-person connections with peers and academics that enriched their overall learning experience, as we heard from Tanya earlier.
Lovely, thank you very much. So Nicola, I can see we've had a great number of questions come in since the last few minutes. Would you be kind enough to read out a couple of them?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we have had a lot come in. Probably most of these are for Jonnie. Got a first question here is, do you address the ethics of potential and future in Sentinel AGI?
Yes, AGI is inextricably a part of this course. I would say it is one of multiple views of AI that we assess, but it would be wrong of us not to. Part of the reason that it's not more a part of the course, I think, is that we're still, as is everybody, trying to figure out the right way to characterize what exactly AGI means. But yes, it's definitely a part of this course.
Thank you. Do you need to have a background in AI to take this course?
No, not at all. And someone's asked actually in the chat a related question about, like, is this a technical degree? CFI purposefully is not positioning this as a technical degree. If you want to learn how to, be an AI researcher, this wouldn't be the degree for you. I say to the students, however, that what counts as an AI researcher is already starting to change. I think about the social implications of this technology as much a part of this in the long term as the technical choices that we make. As Stephen Cave, who's the director of CFI, likes to joke, we want AI to go well. And so there will be plenty of work to do in kind of managing the social implications of the tool. We do familiarize students with some of the technical matter, but a lot of that's available elsewhere and for free. And so it's not really our remit to do just a technical course here.
Thank you, Jonnie. Could you share a little bit about the path to a PhD? Will there be a PhD AI Ethics and Society program within the Institute or any other Cambridge departments?
Yeah, so students from the first cohort are applying for PhDs right now. One of the benefits of the course is that you would have probably your dissertation supervisor as an appropriate person to write a reference letter on your behalf for a PhD application. If you can score a first on your dissertation and on the degree overall, that also speaks to your suitability as a PhD candidate to other departments in the university. In the fullness of time, LCFI is keen to set up a PhD within the center, but that hasn't happened yet. And so I would direct students to other kind of existing students in this cohort to other existing PhD programs.
Thank you. If a student possesses master's level coursework equivalent to one semester, equivalent of half a master's program, along with additional graduate certifications, but lacks an undergraduate credentials, can they still be considered for admission?
This is a question I might need your help to answer, Jonathan. Is there a administrative requirement there?
Nicola, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that, please.
If a student possesses master's level coursework that is equivalent to one semester, along with additional graduate certifications, but lacks an undergraduate credential, can they still be considered for admission? Okay,
so in effect, this would be what we call a non-standard route. So we would generally require students to have a good 2-1, an equivalent of a good 2-1 in an undergraduate degree. If I've understood the question correctly, the person doesn't have an undergraduate degree but has done some elements of higher level study, there would be provision for that application to be considered, yes.
Thank you. Can the 5,000 word limit written sample of work be an excerpt from a longer dissertation?
Yes.
Just to see that, making sure there's something that hasn't been answered already.
I saw one question about the difference between the MST, which is this program, and the MPhil, which is a sort of sister program newly launched. If you're kind of interested in both, how might you decide which one to take up? I can speak to that very briefly and say one of the major differences, obviously, is that the MPhil is a one-year degree. It's a full-time degree. And it is a requirement that you be in Cambridge for that period. In terms of the composition of the different cohorts, I think the MST is primarily students coming out of academic experience more recently. It's not a requirement, but it's just tended to be that way. recent undergrads or people that have, maybe just done another master's. Again, those are not requirements of, but just tends to be the profile of the first cohort. Whereas the MST is a little more, because it's part-time, professional. You have people working in industry and a kind of wider cut of society, as I've described a couple times in the session today. Both have their strengths. And I'll say, actually, to answer one of the other questions that I'd noticed in the chat about being in person, because obviously the MPhil being in person would be one of its strengths. You are allowed, and some students have, or there's nothing stopping you, and some students from previous cohorts have moved to Cambridge if life allows them to do so, to just be in the city for the duration or some portion of their degree. And one of the questions was, could we meet with tutors for coffee and supervisors and things like this? It does happen. It's not an entitlement of the course, but depending on your personal circumstances, if it's an easy enough thing for you to do, you're absolutely within your rights to do that. Yeah.
If I
Thanks,
could just jump in, I've seen there's a couple of questions from people who are saying they're currently in their undergrad year, final year, and how would that work in terms of applying? So just to clarify, we understand that you can't currently provide a definitive outcome to your undergraduate degree. So if you can just provide an indication of where you are to date, part of an offer condition would be that you provide a final transcript and can confirm that you have actually met that minimum of a 2-1. And the next question I wanted to just flag, I think, would be for Tanya, if I could maybe address this one to you. So we've got a question. In year 2, is there any content beyond support for the dissertation?
Yeah, so well, one of the modules is in year 2. So the 3rd module, 4th module is in year 2. There's a residential in year 2, and then the support with your supervisor for your dissertation. So quite a lot, I think.
Thank you. We also had another question just about timelines and timescales for hearing an outcome. So this is for this course, the applications are a gathered field. So we will not be reviewing any applications until after the application deadline has passed. So if you are looking at other courses and other programs, I'm afraid we're not going to be in a position to give you an early answer, but we will inform everyone of the outcome of their application around about late April, early May. Nicola, do you think, I think we might have time for just one more question. I was wondering if there's anything you've spotted.
Yeah, sure. Jonnie, you mentioned DeepMind and OpenAI. What exposure can a candidate expect to experience with businesses and professionals throughout the program?
You will be the CEO of OpenAI when you finish this degree. They're recruiting at the moment, or maybe they're not, depending on, they're, because of the composition of the course, and this is another question I noticed in there, what kind of sectors do people come from? I would say a third is from tech, including the big tech companies. Maybe a third is civil society and adjacent areas, law, municipal government, policymakers, things like this. And then a third might be other related areas that don't fit as neatly into those first 2 categories, like an undergraduate or a journalist or an artist or other things to that effect. So you are kind of in conversation with perhaps employees at a DeepMind or an OpenAI. You will have lectures from people that are either in those organizations or in touch with those organizations. It's unavoidable that big tech is kind of a part of this course. But we try and offer more than, just an MBA might do, let's say, which would be solely focused on the kind of business practicalities. We are looking at it, as I've tried to describe, in a broader lens to try and understand also the social implications beyond the business case. So the tasting menu is the metaphor we've given of, moving between these different things, and big tech companies are definitely part of that offering.
Thank you, Jonnie. That does bring us to a conclusion for this webinar. So thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you found the session informative. I can see there are lots of questions still flying in. I'm afraid we don't have time to answer them all now, but please do go onto our website. You can use the Ask a Question function, and that question will come through to us. A huge thank you to all of our panelists for their contributions tonight as well. We would love to hear your thoughts via our satisfaction survey, which will be emailed to you shortly, and hope to see you at our other MST events this week. In fact, we do have a Meet the Students session starting very, very shortly in about 10 to 15 minutes time, and there is still time to sign up for that, and the link to that is in the chat. Otherwise, thank you again for joining us, and a very good evening from Cambridge.